all of the fun and exciting things in the hallway. Just trust us that we're going to take you to do things that are better. Okay? So we want to make sure that we maximize your time so that you get to do all of the most awesome things. So just trust us on that. Okay? Also, if we pass through doorways, we appreciate that you would catch that door and make sure that the person behind you catches the door before you let go of it so that nobody has to hit them or they get locked out of a space. And if there is a handrail available, please do hold those handrails for safety. To go and look at a lot of animals. We're going to observe them and we're going to take note of their behaviors. One of the first groups of animals that you're going to hear is being very vocal right now. They hear you and they are highly chatty animals. That's the beluga whale, which is a member of the cetacean family group, which is your whale family group. So beluga whale is a big, beautiful white and gray whale that can be found in chilly waters, and as such, they have a lot of blubber on their body, and that's important because why? Yeah, because they live in cold water. They need to be able to keep nice and warm. Their coloration is white because they live in chilly waters, so guess what else lives in their water? What else can be found in their waters? Cold water. They're big white things. Ice and icebergs. Yeah, so this helps them to be able to camouflage or to blend in with them. You and I are going to go just around the corner in a minute, and we are going to go look at them through the window. Now, I want to prepare you for the fact that sometimes you are going to get to see our lovable harbor seals that are in there with us. And a seal is a member of the seal, sea lion, and walrus family group. They just have some tiny, short little front flippers. And they've got a very dog-like head and a chunky sausage-like little body and some rear flippers. They've got a lot of speckles on their body, and they live in the same environments as our beluga whales, which would be why we do exhibit them together. You're going to see a lot of interaction, okay? Interaction can mean a lot of things, but that means one living thing interacting with another. It can be that they are manipulating enrichment items, fun things that we introduce into their habitat. It could be that they are interacting with other animals. It could be that they are looking for their care staff. It could be that they are blowing bubbles or blowing raspberries, as Maple is obviously doing right now. There are a lot of different things, but you can see that they are very, very intelligent, very social, very talkative, and engaging animals. So you're going to observe a lot of behaviors. Good? Yes. There are also going to be a lot of smaller animals, some fish and invertebrates that are in this area. So we're going to get to see a couple of different things, but the primary thing is to notice the behaviors for training and enrichment purposes of our beluga whales and harbor seals. Now, if you do see two harbor seals engaging each other and swimming and racing around, that is fine. You do not need to be worried. If you see two beluga whales doing the same thing, that is fine. You do not need to be worried. If you see beluga whales and harbor seals doing this, that is normal and you do not need to be worried. Sometimes you will see beluga whales chasing harbor seals. Sometimes you will see harbor seals chasing beluga whales. The one thing to keep in mind is that the harbor seals can get out of the water anytime they want. Beluga whales, not so much. Okay, and the harbor seals are faster. All right, so they are fine and they often do engage each other, and this is fine. Okay, you don't need to be worried about them. This is normal behaviors. Let's go look at them. notice right now that you can hear them so easily? Do you feel the chill in the air?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's because, again, all of this ceiling is open air to the beluga habitat, and their habitat is right there on the other side of the wall. And the water and the air temperature is set for the animals to keep them nice and comfortable and well engaged. As you're looking at the images on the wall, hopefully you're noticing that there's a lot of chilly environment or extreme environment representations. Again, because these are habitats that these animals do navigate. And this last bubble, this one where the front of the line is, has one of the closest relatives of a beluga whale shown on that one, and that is a narwhal. If you look at a narwhal and a beluga whale, they are quite similar. Hey, Eric, how are you? They're quite similar, and when you see a narwhal with what looks like that unicorn horn, believe it or not, that is actually a tooth that grows out through their lip. And the animals that exhibit that tooth or that horn are the males. Females do not develop that. But their bodies are very similar to a beluga whale, except for they're not white or gray. They tend to have lots of speckles. And every once in a while, when you see animals in nature, a narwhal will hang out with a beluga whale. All right, we're going to look at some other animals now. All right, this way. We're all habitats. It's actually the very first habitat that we designed here for the aquarium. It is our open ocean habitat. Okay, so it represents all of our world's oceans, and it is home to our largest animals here at the aquarium, those whale sharks and those manta rays. Okay, so Ocean Voyager is a 6.3 million gallon gallery. Okay, this habitat is huge. It's the size of a football field minus those end zones. It is home to 4 whale sharks and 4 manta rays, 1 very handsome green sea turtle whose name is Tank, and thousands of other fish. And you probably will see divers navigating around in the water too. The one thing to think about is everything that moves in that habitat is either a diver, a turtle, or a fish, which means manta rays and whale sharks count as fish. Now, with all of these animals moving around, it's important that we know what types of behaviors to expect out of them so that we can give them proper care. And if we see something unusual, to pay closer attention in case they need our assistance, or maybe they are maturing. Now, much like you, these whale sharks and these manta rays are continuing to grow. They are not fully mature. So if we do see new behaviors from them, it could be an indication that they are moving on, they're maturing, and they're moving on to the next phase of life. So we're going to go in and we are going to, we are going to go in and we are going to observe these animals, and we're going to talk about their behaviors and some of the things in the exhibit that we do to feed these animals to make sure that they get what they need. Things to think about is whale sharks were pretty much an unknown to the scientific community, aside from, hey, yeah, that's a whale shark. People didn't know very much about them before we were able to house them here. Our whale sharks are rescues. So they were caught by fisher people off the coast of Wallen, Taiwan, and we felt that there was a greater value than having them being dinner. One whale shark would feed a village, so we're not here to judge anyone ever, but we felt that there was a better value in offering them a forever home here and studying them over time. And by studying these guys continuously, and we've been doing this for 13 years now, we can use that information that we know about these animals and apply that information to those animals out in nature. Because it's important when you are working with animals out in nature that you should know what you're doing so that you're not harming them, right? We want to be able to provide assistance. So when you see these animals navigating around, you're going to see some smaller animals swimming with them. This is called drafting. Who's ever heard of drafting? How have you heard of drafting, ma'am?
Well, we used to run cross country and we used to draft the player or the runner in front of you, so you didn't have to work as hard.
Exactly. So when you're constantly swimming and moving around in order to breathe and to gather your food, the name of the game is to save your energy. So if you follow somebody else around and they do most of the work and they pretty much push or pull you around like they do in the water here, then you're saving energy. That's more energy that you have for other things, and also out in nature, that means that that's less food that you have to gather. Okay? So that's an important thing. So you're going to see a lot of tiny fish drafting off of our larger animals, and this is a normal thing. Our whale sharks and our manta rays are filter feeding animals, which means they eat things the size of your pinky finger or smaller. So if you look at your pinky finger, it's pretty tiny, right? The tiniest of things that they eat are about the size of your eyelash.
You that little?
Okay? So they eat a lot of small things, and that's because their throat is only about this big. It's about the size of a quarter.
Just relax.
So at no time are we concerned that the whale sharks or manta rays are trying to eat the other animals. They are gentle giants, and as such, I don't want you to be worried about them. Okay? Are you ready to observe them? Perfect.
She can't get out of her jacket. I can't. What is wrong?
I didn't see him either, but did you notice how big that habitat is? Yeah, he gets to go wherever he wants. So he's probably underwater, down at one of the windows, interacting with our guests because he is a very engaging sea turtle. As I mentioned, he is a green sea turtle, which means that he is an herbivore. He is a veggie-eating animal. And he just really enjoys being the only sea turtle. He's a rescue, and he enjoys being the only sea turtle in the habitat and is often like, hello, welcome to my world. Hello, welcome. Hi, good morning. Everybody needs to notice me. Hi. That is our Tank. He is a beautiful and wonderful animal.
How long have y'all had him? He's been here a while.
He's been here at least 5 years. He came to us from, he's been in a couple of different places. This will be his forever home. He is a non-releasable animal in that he is so habituated to people, meaning that he knows that people won't hurt him here. If we were to release him, that would make him vulnerable to people that are not the nicest. So we want to be sure that we do provide responsible care for these animals, and that comes into play as well.
Did you say what happened to him? Where he was
I don't
rescued
know
at
the
first?
entire story. I've heard a couple of different stories. At least one of those has to be wrong, so I'm not going to repeat them. But the bottom line is he was a rescue and he needed some rehabilitation. And by the time he was done with rehabilitation, he was too used to people as being nice and good caregivers and wonderful providers of all things yummy.
Yes.
So Tank specifically, as a green sea turtle, really has a love of green beans, which don't usually happen out in the open ocean. Also, he really likes his endive and his bok choy, and Brussels sprouts are like an ice cream sundae for him. So again, that doesn't really happen out in the open ocean, so I think he's just fine. All right, let's come this way. Studying animals is really important so that we can provide good care for them. Does anybody have any animals at home, inside of your house or in your yard? Mm-hmm. Okay, beautiful. So have you ever watched them do things? You notice that they have special behaviors that they exhibit that maybe not every other animal of their group does? Anybody have a dog that or a cat that chases their tail? Does anybody have a fish that likes to jump up and out of the water? Okay. Does anybody have an animal that if you crinkle a chip or a cookie or any other type of bag, they're all of a sudden right here? Ready and waiting? Okay.
Oh, yes.
All right.
4 of them.
Does anybody have an animal that knows that somebody's at the front door before they knock on the door or ring the doorbell? Okay, so you know some typical behaviors for your specific animal. And it's important to know what's normal or what's typical for the species, but also for your individual animal, so that you can be the best indicator of, or their best steward. And this is important because we unfortunately don't speak the same language as many animals, right? So they tell us with their body language what's going on, and sometimes they vocalize, and who knows if they think that we understand them or not, but we try to figure it out, right? So we pay attention to those things. In studying animals, we look for a couple of different types of behaviors. So some animals, this is their typical behavior. They're just very excited and they're just moving around all of the time. And some animals, this is their typical behavior. They're couch potato. You have to know what's normal for your animal, what's typical. So that if your animal is usually a very, very active animal and all of a sudden they're behaving like this, maybe they need some closer attention, right? Or maybe they're usually very laid back and all of a sudden they're super, super wound. What's going on? That means we need to pay closer attention. Same thing happens with our animals here. We know their typical behavior patterns, and we use any changes as a causal behavior to pay greater attention. Now when we do it, we use scientific forms like the one in front of you, called an ethogram. So an ethogram is when you study behaviors over time, and you and I are going to do this, just not with this form and not with these animals. Okay? You're going to get to see some other animals that are pretty adorable. Okay? And the reason that we do study them is we look for patterns of behavior to determine their individual things. So if you were conducting study, this is an ethogram study of squid. So you would be looking at, in a habitat that has a whole bunch of squid, each one of you would study just one. You would look at one the whole time, and your partner would write down everything that you tell them. Okay? Why do we do that? Why do we pick only one? Well, if I took my eyeballs off of the one squid that I was studying, is there a chance that I would know any changes in their specific behavior if I was looking at all different kinds of animals? No, it'd be easy to lose them in the group, okay? So we want to study just one animal. And this helps us to have some data or some scientific evidence of what's going on with these animals. Why are we not moving? Okay, so with our beluga whales, we look for a lot of different things. So for example, some of the things that we like to look at for those animals are they interacting with enrichment or toys? Okay, you and I are going to go and look at a lot of different things. So interacting with toys is enrichment. Interacting or being social with one another or blowing bubbles is another behavior. Swimming and rubbing on rocks is another behavior. Breathing at the surface or opening and closing their mouth is another. Are they stationing and showing us their bellies, or can we not see them at all? All of those are things that we pay attention to with our beluga whales. Now, I want to talk to you about, I'm going to turn on the lights again if that's okay, because you guys are going to work in partners, and we are going to go look at our African penguins.
Oh, yes!
Is everybody excited about looking at penguins? So some of the things that you are going to be studying when looking at the penguins is, where's my little penguin sheet? You are going to be looking and seeing, is it just holding still? Does it look like it's resting? Is it shaking its head a whole lot? Is it shaking its tail feathers? Yes, they do that. Is it preening, meaning is it taking its beak and is it grooming its feathers? Is it taking its beak and grooming someone else's feathers? Is it floating in the water? Is it swimming under the water? Is it standing there, but is it actively looking around? Or is it waddling around? These are things that you and I are going to look for, and we're going to look for them in teams, because I'm going to have you guys record the behavior that you see when choosing one penguin, looking at them through the windows. Has everybody got an idea of what you're going to do? What's your name? Miss Lopez. So if Miss Lopez was my partner, she would have this sheet to record, and she is going to mark down all of the behaviors that I tell her while I'm studying them. And every 30 seconds, we're going to say, hey, it's swimming. Hey, it's grooming its feathers. Hey, it's doing this. And she's going to write it down, and then we're going to switch. And now I have to record it, and she watches the animal, and she records those behaviors. Good? All right. All right, please find your partners. Teachers are in charge again, and you are ready to continue exploring around the aquarium. You are in our Cold Water Plus gallery, and you continue this way into the audience. Okay? Bye, guys. Enjoy. Thank you. I hope you enjoy.